There's two things that are for certain in this world now. It's death and AI. Mainly getting AI crammed down your throat. So the Xbox Ally X, Xbox Ally is now launching October 16th in most regions with a price of $8.99 USD, $10.99 Canadian. Alongside that, we are getting those AI features. Two that are actually pretty kind of useless in my opinion. One that's going to be pretty awesome, I hope. Now, with those features, we are getting something called automatic super resolution. Now, this isn't new to Windows and Microsoft at all. This was actually first implemented with the Snapdragon Windows on ARM initiative with their original Copilot Plus PCs when there was nothing else to match it with those quote-unquote NPUs. And we all know how that turned out with customers returning them en masse and now being able to get these $1,000 devices for fractions of the price. Anyway, one thing that did come out of it that was always interesting, that was at least hopeful for me, that was going to come over to Windows as a whole, and now it finally is, was again the automatic super resolution. So on the Windows on ARM, they only have these handful of games here, and if you go to the actual supported list, it's only a total of about 14 that are officially supported, and I don't think it was a hard toggle on. Some games it seemed like you might be able to, but for the most part it was only optimized for those games that were really going to be running on ARM on Windows anyway. So when we do see this with the notifications, it's already built into Windows. They basically just need to activate it further for allowing it on these devices that will have those 50 TOPS NPUs attached to the APUs. So that will likely be the requirement, or 40 plus, because I believe that's the hard requirement for a Copilot Plus certified PC. So you'll get these AutoSR, similar to the Auto HDR features in Windows, if you've ever used that to get HDR into games that don't support it. And then, yeah, alongside that, it's saying, yeah, you need these whatever integrated GPU and Hexagon NPU, but that is again from the Snapdragon side. So I really do assume that the hard kind of cutoff will be that 40 or 50 TOPS NPU, probably the 50 TOPS, because that's going to be what's in the Xbox Ally X. Now, the other two features that are actually coming to it are, well, we'll kind of get to that. I kind of spoiled that, but we're going to be getting these highlight reels. It's supposed to be like this AI whatever capture when you get a boss kill or a sick headshot, 360 no scope, whatever, similar to, I suppose, the NVIDIA broadcast or whatever their kind of clips reel stuff is that they do as well, that's integrated heavily into certain games, but I think as a whole you can activate it as like kind of some replay thing. Anyway, my opinion, I always turn that off, and it's kind of a case in point with the Steam Deck and SteamOS. Even though that's so efficient, they did recently integrate the game recording of doing like the last 30 seconds to a minute, similar to the Windows feature, but they disable that by default because it does affect performance heavily on lower powered devices like the Steam Deck. Now, even if there is some sort of NPU assisting this, it's still going to be using some sort of computational power that will presumably be using more power, more background overhead in some sense, even if it's not directly feeding off of the APU and its own on its thing. It's supposed to be more power efficient, sure, but again, I would just rather turn that off, and I hope it's not enabled or by default, or you at least get a broad kind of description of what it might be, and hopefully if there is some talk about performance implications. Now, again, we are getting some Copilot Plus game chat, similar to the RTX chat from NVIDIA. If you're familiar with that, it's pretty useless. I've used multiple variations of it, and it's just never good in my opinion. So we're also getting this advanced shader delivery with up to 10 times faster runner smoothing and uses less battery on first play, more blah, blah, blah. So basically what that means is we're going to get shader pre-compilation like the SteamOS and Proton translation layer. So that will hopefully help with those games like Elden Ring, which is always chugging and stuttering along no matter what you do on the Windows side, but on Steam Deck it's actually pretty smooth, steady, 30 FPS to 40 depending on where you're at, but it's not just going up and down constantly with the frame variations. So that will be nice to see. How robust it will be, if it's going to be with every game that you're going to be able to force it, or if it's only going to be probably with certain DirectX 11 and DirectX 12 titles, I imagine. But it does say it's going to use less battery on first play, which I guess is technically true, because with games like The Last of Us, something like that can take like 10 to 20 minutes, I think, on handhelds at times to do their shader pre-compilations, all that good stuff. There was a game I was playing recently, I can't remember what it was, but Monster Hunter Wilds actually is another very good example. It takes like sometimes upwards of an hour on certain devices to get all those on the first boot, or once you do a GPU upgrade with their drivers. So it will be nice to see that being downloaded and maybe just kind of whatever, like how you have to download the shaders before and then it just gets injected in. It's not going to be 100% perfect. Same with the SteamOS and Proton, because there is just really crappily coded games or whatever, things like that that will just make it not smooth, but it should hopefully be a much smoother experience. And then with this whole like kind of Xbox OS handheld thing, that will make it even better. So with all that being said, is it going to be worth it though to go from something like an ROG Ally Original or even an X to go to something like this to upgrade? Is it going to be worth it even just for those features alone? Again, buy the device what you get on launch day, not on these promises of this advanced shader delivery, and if it's going to be any better than like Bazzite or whatever. And with that being said, you can already install Bazzite and SteamOS proper on these handhelds now and just forego that. So it will be interesting, and it will be, again, it's going to be, is it a compelling enough argument to spend that much money again, in some cases, if you got the original non-Xbox Ally X, and you're going from that, it's probably not really going to be worth it. In my opinion, even if you're coming from the original ROG Ally, where it would be heavily worth it for that to do the upgrade to the Xbox Ally X, in my opinion, it would be a worthwhile upgrade. But even from then, my personal opinion, I wouldn't really upgrade it all until something like FSR 4 is built into the handhelds. Now that will likely not come to these handhelds because it's not RDNA 4. So when we finally start seeing those iGPUs and integrated graphics with RDNA 4, or maybe the RDNA 3.5 if they kind of get it going on that too, then that would be a very compelling upgrade in my opinion from like the original Xbox, or holy smokes, the original ROG Ally or the ROG Ally X. That would be a very compelling upgrade to go to something that would support FSR 4, especially on these handhelds, and how transformative that would be for a really good kind of quote-unquote AI-based upscale that would rival with DLSS in some cases. Even if we get a reduced form of it, like PSSR, that would be a huge upgrade over FSR 3 and 2 and 1 and all that good stuff in a lot of cases. But that'll do it for this one. Let me all know what you think in the comments about this. Are you excited for the Xbox Ally X, Xbox Ally? Are you more excited with these AI features and the handheld from the Windows side of that, and the whole Xbox OS, whatever you want to call it? I don't even know what the hell they're calling it, to be honest. But anyway, are you excited? Are you going to be switching off of Steam Deck or SteamOS or Bazzite, one of those other distros or installs, to go to Windows on handheld? Because presumably this will not just be coming obviously to the Xbox Ally X, because they've already said that it will be coming kind of early next year. So you could just kind of upgrade one of your quote-unquote old devices and get a refresh device as well. So are you just more excited for the upgrades to Windows itself, or are you more excited for the handheld? Again, let me know in the comments, and I hope you all have a great day.